It's a good day to brew, baby. What is up, friends? It's your boy Millsy back with a new podcast on the channel. I am joined with my friends today, and we are starting a new venture we're calling Commander Brew Crew, a new show where we as friends sit down and talk together about brewing, what we love about Magic in general, and hopefully have a little fun along the way. I am joined by two people that you have heard on the channel previously. Both of them did get featured on the previous podcast that we did here on the channel. First up is the lore lover of all of us when it comes to a certain set coming out this year. It's Andrew.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I appreciate the lore call out and letting people know what I'm about straight out of the gate.
And the other guy here on the podcast is probably one of the only people that's made a green deck better than me. It's Josh.
Hey guys, what's up?
Do you like that? Is that good enough for you for an introduction?
Yeah. I feel like that's a pretty good introduction. I love monocolored decks, and I did not think I was going to enjoy green. I was like, nah, I'm going to stay away from it. And then I built green, and I was like, oh, please stop being so disgusting.
I still think my favorite part of that interaction was that I helped you figure out your play line through that game.
Yeah.
And I realized I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, and that you just decided, you know what? I'm going to try green, but then you bared with it.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh, I hope that continues. I hope we get some fun.
Well,
guys, we've been chatting about this idea for this podcast for a while, and I'm just really happy that we finally get to sit down and have this to clear the air. You know, the podcast that was originally on the channel is no longer a thing. Anyone who's been watching the channel has known that it's just been me on the channel for a while, which has been fine. I love brewing, and I brew a couple decks a week. You can find that over on the channel, but my hope here is that this podcast is a way for us to have fun together, to maybe brew together in the future and talk about what it is that we want. Before we get into our topic this week, which is going to be the rest of the sets that are coming out this year in general, I just wanted to get a quick baseline since it's in the name. We got to talk about it, guys. What have you been brewing lately? What's that one deck that you have pulled up on your phone all the time that you keep tinkering with? Because if you're anything like me, it's not just one, but pick one.
So the one that I've been working on most recently, I am affectionately calling Kaikar Dragon's Fury, we are looking to cast as many instances of Dragon's Approach as we can.
Oh, look at that. We just ran out of time. Come on.
So, yeah, lots of... I think I've got like 30 copies of Dragon's Approach in there. With all kinds of goodness.
So for the listeners at home who don't know, Dragon's Approach is a spell that deals damage to each opponent, but you can have as many of them as you want in your deck. It's one of the few cards in Commander that gets around the one per deck rule. Well, Josh literally hasn't even answered yet, and you've already won the award for the deck I didn't expect for someone to talk about. Josh, what have you been brewing this week?
So I've been, as a relatively new player, only about a year, actually, I have been messing with a lot of monocolored stuff, right?
I feel like that's going to anger somebody. Somebody's going to be like, I've only been playing for 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, if you've only been playing for 3 weeks, just wait. It gets better. But I've been messing with a lot of monocolored stuff, so I've done mono white, mono black, mono green. So I still need to do blue and black, or blue and red.
If you do mono blue, you're not allowed to be part of this group anymore.
I don't think he's the one that's not allowed to do mono blue in this group.
Well, so two that I'm messing with right now. One is a Dimir deck, which I had a lot of fun with my budget Dimir Ninjas deck that I did with Yuriko. That was a lot of fun. I think the deck ended up costing in total like less than $80.
Negative money. Negative money.
It was so cheap. I want to say it was like $83. It was great. But right now I'm building out what I call Murderous Deaths, which is Dimir. I've got Rexiel as the commander and Gyruda as the companion. It's gonna all be like sea creatures or things that you expect to be in the water. It was originally supposed to be like a whale tribal deck, but unfortunately
there's the whale tribal jokes.
Yeah, there's only like 12 whales or something like that.
But there's all those shapeshifters. They're totally whales.
Yeah, that's true. But I was trying to stick really hardcore to the water theme. You know, I expanded it a little bit, so we've got squids and other things in there, krakens. So, Murderous Depths, that's my big one that I'm working on now.
Kaikar Dragon's Fury and a Dimir Sea Serpent's deck with a companion. What does this episode turn into? Well, friends,
Nothing good.
If anyone watches the content I have up on the channel, I'm brewing a lot of things, and that's just because I create content. But what I'll talk about here is what I've been brewing for myself. A week or so ago on the channel, I made an Ovika deck from Frexstar LB1. And I think it's been a running joke for me at this point. I think you guys can attest to this, that I just, every set or two, I'll see this new Izzet commander. I'm like, is this the one? Is this the one that's going to fix what I want from an Izzet commander? I don't think Ovika is that yet, but it certainly seems fun to make a ton of gobos and run them into people. So, yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. The difference between the deck list that I released on the episode and what I'm working on is I didn't brew the one for the episode necessarily the way I'd brew it for myself. So I'm just changing it a little bit to what I want from the deck for myself. But all right, well, hey, I think that's pretty good so far. If any of y'all are interested in any of the ideas we put forth, just drop us a comment down below, and we will get you some deck lists when they're done, or some very shady cores of decks that are done.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, friends. So this week we are talking about the rest of the year, 2023, the year of our Lord 2023, the current year.
Amen.
Magic has one very interesting double-edged sword in that there's always something new coming out. I know some people love that, like me. I love it. I love new things to tinker with. I think we're all three of us are brewers at heart, so we love seeing new things. A lot of people hate it because it means they have to buy new things, and we're not going to get into the baiting as far as that goes. But what I wanted to do was just walk through some of the sets that have already come out this year, and then just do some theory crafting on some of the sets that are coming out this year. So, of course, this year started in January with Dominaria Remastered. It was a draftable reprint set that had representation from every Magic set that's been based on Dominaria, of course, with the exception of anything, of course, that's on the reserve list. The question I have for you guys is, did you guys buy any? Did you guys buy any Dominaria Remastered?
Yeah, I bought a few of the booster packs, frankly, in a hope to try and grab at least one, if not more, tutors, because I love that those got re-released.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Those are just such a powerful way to narrow down the 99 cards in the deck down to give me what I need right now. And I was hoping to pull one of those, but I think I would needed to buy quite a bit more packs if I was hoping to pull some of those.
Josh,
I don't know that I got anything of great value, but some of those are still some fun cards.
Josh, did you buy any, or did you have any reprints you were really looking forward to out of Dominaria Remastered?
Yeah, so I didn't buy any, but there are definitely some singles that I might go look at now that they've been reprinted and the cost has come down. Like Urza. Or like some of the tutors you were talking
Mono
about.
Blue Urza got a big reprint. That's an expensive card. I think my two favorite outside of the tutor cycle. So we got the original 5. I believe they were from Mirage. The 4 tutors, and then Gamble, of course, all got reprints. Yep. Not only in the standard frame, old border frame, and all 5 of them got pretty borderless versions, which are my favorite. Yeah. But the 2 cards, I think I was also really excited to see how Dominaria Remastered was. Sylvan Library got a good reprint, and that's a card that absolutely needed one, especially when it comes to 3 and 4 color decks that use it for consistency. And then, although Mystic Remora got reprinted in a secret layer, it actually got an official reprint here in Dominaria Remastered, which is a card that a lot of people just didn't use because of the cost. Mystic Remora was more expensive than Aristic Study, and Aristic Study's been is pretty expensive in itself.
It ain't cheap for a
rectangular. As far as lore goes, my girl Lyra Dawnbringer got a reprint, and she got a borderless art.
I remember
and
seeing that.
I love that card. I would probably never play it as a commander, but if I ever actually build an angel deck, you can believe she would be in it. So yeah, Dominaria Remastered was cool in my opinion. It was cool for them to do these. Like we got Time Spiral Remastered. What was that? A year or so ago.
Yeah.
And we just got Dominaria. I hope they do more of these. We've seen a couple remastered sets on Arena, but to me that doesn't really count as much. But I'm excited that they're trying this. They're doing these fun things, and I imagine more in franchise players like us, this is something we like. This is something we care about.
Yeah, like I appreciate that. I just recently Innistrad Remastered came out on Arena, so getting access to a lot of those fun cards is pretty nice.
It's great to double the amount of werewolves you could play in a historic brawl deck.
I mean, yeah, if you're the one who has said werewolves.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're not going to name any names.
You know who I forgot about? Yawgmoth as well. I was excited to see that.
That was a good
reprinted
reprint.
as well.
That border, I'm sorry, I am a sucker for borderless cards.
Oh yes,
and
Absolutely.
And that Yawgmoth, even the Urza too, are just beautiful.
both of them.
I was really happy when Mirari's Wake got reprinted in Mono Horizons 2 with that borderless art, and so I will definitely take advantage of any borderless arts. In fact, I gave up. I buy listed every single tutor that I had for the borderless ones. So, all right, well, a little bit after that, in February, we got the first standard premiere set of the year, Phyrexia, All Will Be One. A lot longer of a name.
Dum bum bum.
And certainly, I would argue, a lot more of a impact on a lot of formats. Question for you guys. Which Phyrexia All Will Be One commanders have you been interested in? Which ones have you been brewing around? Of course, I have done my fair share on the channel. But for me personally, the one All Will Be One commander I have been tinkering around with the most is Vishgraz. I think both of you got to play against my kind of version 1.0 list of Vishgraz. It's a deck that I've been updating once or twice on the channel. It's a deck that I'm really excited to keep brewing around, but at the moment it's kind of in a hold pattern for some of the Phyrexian support I expect we'll see in March of the Machine. So I'm just waiting a little bit just to see what we get there. But what about you guys? What kind of commanders from Phyrexia have you guys been interested in?
Yeah, so like I know you did your brew video on Nayali. I bought that precon and I did some changing around. You balanced, I think, tokens and equipment for yours pretty well and did sort of a hybrid of the two. I went full, straight into just tokens because it's free double strike with Nayali on the card. Like,
I want to point out, I did not influence you to say that. You generally believe that.
I as I pocket my money.
As the $20 bill gets handed across the room.
No, yeah, Nayali's attacking tokens you have you control have double strike free double strike anthem. Just man, it doesn't matter if they're 2/2s, 1/1s.
What is it, Josh? It's free real estate. That's what it is.
100%. Absolutely. Free real estate's the best.
Josh, what have you had any Phyrexia All Will Be One commanders you've been brewing around or been interested in?
So I said earlier I haven't built anything mono blue or mono red. The basis for my mono red that I started building around was
tell me it's Sulfin.
Is absolutely Sulfin.
Gosh, that card.
100%. There's two commanders. Mono green seems like so much fun. There's another one I'm going to go back to for another mono green deck, but it'll be a Voltron deck. But
that doesn't make it any less scary. Okay.
Oh no, absolutely not. But Sulfim is the one that I was like super stoked about. I was like, this looks amazing.
Sulfim is such an interesting card. It's very similar to a commander like Torbrand that we got in Throne of Eldraine. But I think Sulfim just does it a lot better because it expands what can be affected, either doubled or what type of damages can be increased. Yeah, Sulfim's one of those cards that I looked at, I was like, ooh, that's going to be fun. I think, obviously, the Dominus from Phyrexia All Will Be One that's going to be the most popular, and it's pretty obvious, is Mondrak, right? Mondrak being a second copy of Anointed Procession for most token decks is going to be the card that's going to, of the Dominuses, that's probably going to retain the highest cost. Obviously, of course, Elshnor and Mommy is going to be the card that's probably going to hold For me, I think the card that I was most excited to brew around was Mondrak. You guys, we have this running joke that all I do is build token decks now because you guys get mad at me when I build combo decks.
Is it a joke if it's the truth?
It is the truth. And to me, Mondrak made the tokens decks that I did care about even better. So I was pretty happy about that. As well as All Will Be One, the card itself, actually combos with the Red Terror, a card that I have in my Tyranids deck. And so I'm always happy to throw another combo in that deck, because that deck is a ton of fun to play.
Yeah,
So
the actual All Will Be One card is kind of bonkers.
The other thing that I'm excited to use that All Will Be One card for is, and this is going to dip a little bit into our a future thing we're going to talk about, but I don't think people are really realizing how much All Will Be One can do. So the effect says anytime you put Every time you put a counter on a permanent you control, you deal with that damage equal to that many counters. I think All Will Be One will find a great spot in like Planeswalkers decks, just because of how much you can do with it. I don't think we're there yet, but I think there's the +1/+1 counter strategies are big in some of those red adjacent colors. Planeswalker decks, I think, can use that. I think there's a lot of decks that can use All Will Be One that may not realize it. So I think that's one of those cards that's probably going to go up in value, because people probably don't really realize all it can do until you start kind of really messing with it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, have you guys had any experience, or the big land from Phyrexian RB1 that everyone was kind of talking about was the Mycosynth Gardens? Have you guys brewed with it at all or used it?
No, I haven't touched it at all.
I've looked at, because that's the land where everything is an artifact.
No, that's the land where when you pay X and you tap it, it becomes a copy of target artifacts you control.
Gotcha. I've looked to put that into my Jan Jansen deck.
Jan Jansen.
With just comboing off on artifacts left and right in that deck. But I don't know. I couldn't find myself, apart from any of the basic lands that I have. I couldn't find myself trading that for another one of my non-basic lands.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about for XRLB1. I mean, maybe at some point we can do a little retrospective and talk about it, because I think this set has a lot of really good stuff in it. And I think over the next few months, people are going to be realizing just how good some of these cards are and how well they fit the strategies. Well, let's talk about the next set that's coming out. And the reason we're recording this episode when we are is we're recording this literally days before previews start for March of the Machine. And so what I wanted to do is kind of take a snapshot of what we thought about this set before we start seeing previews, because it would be very easy to just do this next weekend and have most of the questions answered for us. But what I wanted to do was just start with, what was your guys' reaction to a lot of the first things we saw from March of the Machine? Because in a lot of the ways, this was kind of a wild preview they did. There were some things even I didn't expect. So what did you guys think of this first look?
So the first thing I saw was, the logo itself. And I'm seeing the logo. Maybe this is just me, maybe not. The font and the way that they've used the logo for March of the Machines looks like it's a comic book style of
a lot of Infinity War vibes to me.
It looks like it should be on the cover of a graphic novel or a some sort of Avengers or Justice League comic book. And then so with that, and also seeing Yargle and Multani, I definitely thought, I'm like, oh, so these aren't real cards.
Oh, so we're making fake cards now.
I thought for sure that this was like, there's no such thing as an 18-6.
So what Andrew's referring to is the team-ups. That's kind of what we're calling them, because, let's be honest, Pokemon did them as well, and so now Magic seems to be trying their hand at them. These are cards where we have two different legendary characters on the same card, and the cards are color combinations of them and have abilities to match them. I think the funniest part about Multani and Yargle is, of course, Yargle is well known for being a creature that has a lot more power than toughness and has no actual abilities. It's always just had flavor text.
Vanilla.
Of course, Multani is known for being a creature that relies on how many lands you have. I just think it's hilarious that they got rid of all the abilities. It's just a massive, what did you say, 18-6?
18-6.
18-6 for 6.
For 6.
And then the flavor text is basically Multani just saying, like, there's no reason I should even like you, but I guess we'll just team up for this.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that's like...
Followed by the very, very expected response of...
Yeah, so good. Yargle Day is a holiday that we should... Yes, we saw team-ups. We also saw Multiverse Legends. This is a bonus sheet set, kind of like the Mystical Archive from Strixhaven and our retro artifacts from the Brothers War. We saw two already. Atraxa we saw in the Streets of New Capenna frame, because we found out more recently that this is where Atraxa originally came from. And then we saw Ragavan himself, the monkey, in the Kaladesh Inventions frame. So my question for you guys is, what commander do you want to see in this Multiverse Legends frame? The intention here is we're reprinting these commanders in the showcase frame that they have on their plane. So of course it's limited to Eldraine on, right? Because those are where we had showcase frames. Is there any commander you either want to see personally in one of these frames, or are there any commanders that you think you'd be comfortable guessing might show up in one of these frames due to its popularity or cost or what have you?
Zach is going to agree with this one. It's another big creatures matter mono green commander, but I really want to see Goreclaw in a frame like this. I feel like it would be awesome. It would be so killer to see Goreclaw in a sweet frame.
I would really truly love to see Goreclaw in a frame like this. I just don't think it has a high chance, and that's what makes me
I don't
sad.
think it does either. Goreclaw is awesome. I love her in that Bears tribal deck that I've got with Ayula.
Goreclaw sees a lot of play. I mean, we've only seen Goreclaw in our play group as a either a commander or a like in a mono green deck. But Gorkla sees a lot of play in a lot of like green decks. Andrew, what do you think? Is there any commander you really want to see in this Multiverse Legends frame?
Yeah, as far as like the new showcase frames, I don't know. I think I'm in a similar boat of my pick to not be very likely. I'm also heavily going into my own Magic playing nostalgia. The first deck that I ever like made from scratch myself was Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashvale, and I'm a sucker for knights and medieval fantasy.
That doesn't track at all. Doesn't track at all.
But I would love to see. Sir Gwyn was the first one that came to mind. But any of the knights getting some really cool alternate artwork and showcase stuff for those would be at the very top of my list.
Yeah.
If I had to make an honest pick for who I thought might be included, I really think we might see one of those Brawl commanders from Eldraine get reprinted in that frame, whether it's Corvold or Layla or like Chulainn. I think all of them or even Gwyn, you could argue. I mean, Corvold and Layla are the most popular two of those four.
Yeah.
I could see them getting reprinted. Personally, I would love to get something. I would love to get something like a Lathril or something like that. Like those commanders that got put out in the decks that never had a chance to be in their original frame.
Oh yeah,
would be kind of cool. One of my favorite showcase frames they've done is Capenna, and I know there's not a ton of legendaries outside of Capenna that we don't know about already. So of course we're not going to see a ton there. But as far as like Zendikar goes, I'd love to see maybe some old Zendikar legends get reprinted in that Zendikar showcase frame.
You mean like the Shuffle Titans or?
No, like there's plenty of choices. You have, like I know Omnath got printed in a core set, but even some of those Omnaths, like the original, right? 2-color Omnath got printed in BFZ, and of course that one didn't have a showcase frame. 3-color Omnath got printed in a core set. It could potentially be under that frame. Of course, 4-color Omnath got printed in Zendikar Rising, so it got its frame. And of course, we are now seeing 5-color Omnath in March of the Machines, and it is actually getting printed in that Zendikar Rising frame. So the cool part I like about this is these team ups, these things that we're seeing happening, they're getting alternate printings in their original sets frames, and I think that's really cool because it just adds to the coolness of seeing them. So what are your guys' favorite team ups you've seen so far? Andrew, is yours Yarkle and Motani, or have you seen another one that you really like better?
No, the one that I like the most so far, as far as what we've seen, is Drana and Linvala.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
That one seems which is interesting because whenever I'm playing with, whether it's one-on-one on Arena or in a group table setting, tabletop, my stuff getting shut down is no fun. But apparently when I get the option to do that, I will do it in a heartbeat. So, the new Drana and Linvala looks pretty good.
Josh, I know your answer, but just go ahead and preach to the church on this one. Who's your favorite team up we've seen so far?
I've always wanted a really solid option for an Abzan commander, but none of them really stood out to me. Like Miracle was super cool, and I brewed a whole deck around him, but his style and the way that he works just does not match the way that I play. So I never actually even built the deck and used it. And so I am super stoked for Thalia and the Gitrog monster.
Man, wins the pick for the team up I did not expect, but such a cool card. 4/4 for 4 with a bunch of great abilities.
Yes.
And I love seeing the Innistrad frame come back. Yeah. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Of course, I love Gitrog. I've been trying to find a deck for Gitrog for such a long time. My favorite team up is so far is not going to come as a surprise to either of the two of you, because you have both played against, I believe, the deck where this character originally spent its time in. And of course, with my recent hot streak of tokens deck, it's not going to surprise you that my pick is Galton Mavrin.
No way.
I don't believe you.
I've been
Wild.
looking for a straight up like Selesnya tokens deck for a really long time, and none of the Selesnya commanders have like really caught my eye. And then I literally saw Mavrin riding Galton. I was like, I'm literally in. I don't even need to read the card I'm in.
Well, the prediction that I can make about you with you playing and eventually piloting that deck is I don't foresee a circumstance in which you create the 1/1 vampires. I think I've exclusively see you making just the gigantic 12/12 dinosaurs, or at least 12/12, if not bigger, to then proceed to just trample all
And the
over
reason I
us.
think I'm so excited about Galton Mavrin isn't just in Commander, because let's be 100% honest, it's probably one of the best Selesnya token commanders we've seen in a long time. I think about it a lot of the way that I think about Jetmir, in that we have these very offensive focused token commanders as opposed to these like, lol, I made 300 tokens commanders. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But I'm excited also for Galton Mavrin. I think a lot like you mentioned with Linvala and Drana. I'm also excited for it on Brawl, because I think it's going to be as fun on Arena as it's going to be as fun in Commander. All right, guys, what team ups do we want to see? Do you have any ideas for team ups you'd like to see? Now, I want to put the caveat here, and so we give our guesses to be at least somewhat realistic. All the team ups we've seen so far, the two characters have been from the same plane. We've yet to see a team up where characters are from different planes. So far, we've kind of seen that March of the Machines is dealing with these following planes, so just make sure you keep your guess constrained to these. New Capenna, Amonkhet, Kamigawa, Ixalan, Zendikar, Ikoria, Kaladesh, Eldraine, Theros, and Dominaria. I have mine already, if you guys want to take a second, if you haven't thought about it already. My pick is going to complete the rest of Ixalan, and I want to see whether it's Beckett Brass or it's maybe Malcolm or Breaches together paired with Kumena. I want to see a Teamer Pirates Merfolk commander. I think it can work for both of the tribes. Yes, Pirates have always kind of leaned a little more Grixis, but let's be 100% honest, adding green has never hurt a color combination ever. Not only that, but the Wizards has been really messing around with these blue and red merfolk as well. We just don't really have a good commander to play the teamer merfolk side, unless you want to go for a commander that isn't a merfolk. I think it would just be kind of interesting. I think it's a lot less likely than other ones that are out there, but I just think it'd be cool.
No, but that does sound interesting, to say the least. I don't know if mine fits the criteria perfectly, and it's certainly highly unlikely. But you know, as the two of you know, I am a shill for anything and everything that is Mardu colors.
Never once have I heard that in my life.
Never once. I don't know where that came from.
Couldn't have guessed.
Because of all the three of us, I think it's pretty convincing to say you have the most current Mardu decks built of the three of us.
It's possible that I may have 6 currently built decks that are all Mardu colored. So I thought, you know, we haven't seen a team up that constitutes the white, black, red for that yet. And so I was looking across all the different planes and the different commanders that we've gotten. I would love to see a team up of Aurelia and Rakdos.
Oh, what a team up that would be!
That would be like
so much fun.
A different, almost like a Kalia of the Vast, but I can see that being definitely much more aggressive, as opposed to just the one at a time that you get from Kalia, of getting the one free angel, demon, or dragon per turn, per attack with Kalia. I can just see some great angel and demon synergies coming across.
That's such a great choice. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But again, I think the likelihood of that is
I actually don't think
zero.
it's as negative as you think it is.
Yeah, it's probably
we haven't
more
seen a ton of
likely
Ravnica
than-
yet, so it is more than possible. And I didn't even realize Ravnica's not on there, but Ravnica is involved, so that's on me for not putting it on there.
I'm gonna throw it back to Innistrad. I really want to see Macias for zombies, whether they be tokens or reanimation, with the invincibility of Avacyn. I want to see an Orzhov deck with invincible zombies. I feel like that would be
Zombie angels, man.
amazing. Oh yes, that would be
Invincible.
so great.
Of course,
Zombie
the
angels.
only hole I can poke in this is that is unfortunate that Avacyn is no longer alive.
Yes, I know. That's
so-
what makes me so sad. We
And-
need
and-
Teferi
And
to go
unfortunately,
back.
the other angel choice you have would be Selvala.
Yes.
We've kind of already seen an Avacyn team up, and I doubt we're going to see another one.
Yeah, I don't think we will.
I'm not saying that there isn't a chance. What I think I'm really excited for about these team ups is they're not all going to be in the set. Actually, we already saw Goro, and Satoru.
Oh yeah.
And that is actually not going to be in the set. That's like one of those set booster commander cards. They're also going to be at pre-release as well. You'll be able to get at least one of them in every pre-release kit you open of these commander only team ups. So I'm really excited to see. I think Satoru and Goro was like the pick that I would have never seen coming, but I think is really cool.
Yeah, like Grixis ninjas basically is what I'm picking up on. That is a fun idea for sure. Getting to swing in with some unblockable creatures, and then just say, hey, you know what, you got that unblockable creature. Here's a dragon.
All right, so March of the Machines is our big commander release of the year. So every year we have a set that comes out with 5 mainline commander decks. I believe last year it was Capenna. The year before was Strixhaven. So there's always one set a year that gets 5. And the big difference is that each of these decks has more new cards in it. In a traditional set, those commander decks really only have 7 or 8 new cards in them. These normally have about 20. They tend to be a little bit better on the reprint front and that kind of thing. I'm going to read you off the 5 decks that we have coming out for March of the Machines, and I just simply want to know, and I'll answer as well, which of the 5 of these are you most excited for? We have a deck called Growing Threat, white-black, and it is a Phyrexian theme. Cavalry Charge is a white-blue-black Knights themed deck. Divine Convocation is a white-blue-red Convoke themed deck. Very interesting on that one. Call for Backup is a white-red-green +1/+1 counters themed deck. And blue-red-green Tinker Time is an artifact themed deck. Do any of the 5 of these, have any of them caught your eye? Have you looked at any of them at all?
Well, since I kind of already spoiled where my preferences lie in terms of the medieval and fantasy era and anything that can possibly be tied to those, and on top of that, also being a fan of not as much as the Mardu colors, but Esper, the white, blue, black colors being pretty fun to work with as well. I'm definitely got my eye on the Cavalry's Charge.
I want to say really quickly, I love the themes of these decks. They're all pretty out there. Like, I never would have called an Esper Knights deck at all.
Yeah.
Like, and the interesting thing about that is, Eldraine had a few blue Knights, but not very many. I mean, in all reality, Knights on Eldraine were primarily in Mardu, but green and blue each had at least a couple Knights. I love that getting into a theme that's outside of what you'd expect from it.
Well, in recent sets like Brothers War and Baldur's Gate expanded on the white and blue knights and soldiers kind of sub themes.
Of course, we got both Miral and we got the Harbin, the blue white knights commander or soldiers. Sorry, soldiers commander.
Yeah. So seeing the Esper, I think, is probably like the next, because we've had white black knights for quite a while. And adding some blue in there is something that we've seen, I guess, just a little bit more recently as far as that militant knights and soldiers sub-theme goes.
For all the old players like me, I am holding on to hope that Tinker Time has anything to do with energy from Kaladesh. I know that neither of you guys played during Kaladesh, but like energy at the time had a very popular Gruul deck.
Oh yeah.
That was energy in standard. Teamer is such an interesting color combination for artifacts, and I love the idea of it. That's my selfish hope, is that it's energy. I doubt it will be, but I just think it could be interesting. We're already seeing some Kaladesh in March of the Machine. Like, it could be kind of interesting if it had literally anything to do. It probably has to do something to do with Kaladesh, but I think it'd be really cool if they finally made an energy commander. People have been asking for an energy commander for a really long time, and I think it'd be cool if we got one through one of these.
I think that'd be
recons.
super cool. I only got into it recently, but I got a bunch of cards from Kaladesh because one of the guys that I worked with said that he didn't play anymore, gave me a shoebox full of cards. There was a bunch of cards from Kaladesh.
Did he have any of the swords?
I think Feast and Famine was in there.
Oh, that's great.
I think that was the only one But because he kept a lot of the nicer stuff for himself. He was
Of
he's like
course.
here's a
Yeah.
shoebox, but I've got my nice binders full of stuff. So
The
I
other,
was-
like little flag I want to put up is I love that we're getting an actual Phyrexian themed precon. So for
yeah.
anyone that's unaware, although B1 was the first time, I think Brothers were actually might have had a few, but recently is the first time we're actually getting Phyrexian as a creature type. Wizards is finally doing this, and so I love seeing the idea that we're finally getting more and more support for this Phyrexian creature type and some sort of kind of, think about it, some sort of tribality to it. It's not just an infect deck now. It actually could be a tribal deck as well. And I think
Well,
that's
yeah.
pretty cool.
If you sort on any sort of app or website that lets you filter Magic cards by type, if you just search and filter by Phyrexian creature type, it's a long list.
And Wizards has gone back and amended a lot of them now that they're willing to do it, and I think it's pretty cool. I think there's a lot of fun. Josh, did you have a deck that you're the most excited for?
Of these 5, I'm really looking at that call for backup, the Naya deck. +1 counters looks super cool. I've kind of built around it and messed with it a little bit before, but I don't think I've ever gone like full into it. And so I think having a basis to build around would be super cool. And I've already started looking at Naya cards because I really like the thought of building around Marisi, the Coil Breaker. And so I think this will just be like another chance for me to kind of venture into that color combo.
So previews for March on the Machine start March 29th. That's going to be before this episode comes out. But I just wanted to reiterate that we're talking about this before the set comes out, or before we've seen most of the spoilers. And that comes out April 21st. Just about a month later, we get March of the Machine, the Aftermath. This has been stated to be a very small set that's going to, quote, wrap up some of the storylines from March of the Machine and change the game. I'm very intrigued about the Aftermath. We've seen literally one card so far. That's the Kenrith's Funeral. And when
Rest in peace.
And when we saw the first look for March of the Machine, they said they couldn't really show any other cards from the set yet because they didn't want to ruin the story of March of the Machines. So I'm very intrigued to see what it is that this set actually entails. The biggest kind of complaint online about March of the Machine, the Aftermath so far, is they're trying a different booster pack style for it. The booster packs are going to be a little bit smaller because there are less cards in the set. I don't want to speculate because we have literally no idea what that means, and we don't really need to. But just know the set's supposed to be about 50 cards. They're all going to be standard legal, and it's going to come out just a month after March of the Machines. Again, my guess is probably as good as yours, guys, is on what that means. And maybe once we get a little bit more, we can chat about what we expect from that. But I don't want to go too deep in the weeds on something that we don't know all about. Well,
yeah, I'm kind of excited for this mini set idea, because it introduces small quantity of cards that you can kind of look forward to without feeling like in some of these bigger sets like March of the Machines or Dominaria United or something like that, where you feel like, oh man, there's so many cards that I want. I feel like I'm gonna have to go out there and either wait for single prices to drop or buy a buttload of set boosters hoping that you get the card that you want.
my hope is this is like a 50 deep banger set. Like all 50 of these cards are just bangers. They go into decks that already exist. They help support new decks. Like my hope is that it's a small set because they didn't want to make it draftable, so they just decided to cut it down and just give us a lot of really good stuff at once.
That would be so cool.
Rather than but we don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot of story spotlight stuff. It's going to be a lot of that. But you know what, guys? Let's get into the set of the year that I would argue that, none of us are interested in at all. No one's sitting in this room.
0%.
No one sitting in this room has any opinions on this set. And you know what? To be honest, we would be better not covering it. No, I'm just kidding.
You take that back right now.
In June, we are getting the first official full Universes Beyond set, Lord of the Rings, Tales from Middle Earth, a set based completely around Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. This is a set that's going to be legal in Modern, Commander, and all other vintage formats. It's coming out in Draft, Set, Collector, Boosters, and we're getting a full set of Commander decks. The Commander decks are going to be just like the Warhammer 40k decks, where they're all going to have new cards in the decks, and that every card in the decks is going to have Lord of the Rings themed art. Well, Andrew, I will stop delaying myself here and turn it over to you as our resident Lord of the Rings expert. How are you feeling so far about Lord of the Rings Tales from Middle-earth?
So it's a mixed bag, but the majority of my feelings and thoughts about this release is incredibly positive. So seeing the little tiny preview that we've seen of like the Commander products is great. The spoilers that we've gotten, seeing my Bard God boy Tom Bombadil make an appearance in the card game where he didn't even get an appearance in the movies is absolutely incredible. I think the One Ring card itself, with the draw capabilities that is going to have, and the thematic lore implications that the card gives, I think is on point. I think that's the case with a lot of the cards that we've seen so far, where everything from the One Ring to you cannot pass, of being blocked by a legendary creature. Oh well, destroy that creature that's blocked by a legendary creature.
Of course, we saw Mount Doom. And the Shire, so we're gonna get these legendary lands. They look pretty darn cool.
Yeah, so everything just lore wise is really on point. I think the only thing that really sort of disappoints me, as cool as it is the serialized soul rings that are in the different Elvish ring, Dwarvish ring, and Men rings, both with the foil and the non-foil both being limited, extremely limited in quantities, and I think because of that and other sorts of scarcity and excitement that people have for this, the cost for some of these cards and sets and sealed product,
I think the only thing
pretty high.
The only thing that's going to be something that's going to fight back on that is that it's Soul Ring. It's this card that literally everyone has. It's not like it's it's not like it's this it's not like it's a card. Man, can you imagine if that was like a serialized Mana Crypt or something like that? Like this card that's already hard to find on its own.
Yes, that'll be $500.
I imagine a lot of people are going to want at least one of them. Like of the three of them, I love the look of the Elven one, and I might pick it up, just throw it in the staple binder. Yeah. But I have been, as someone whose real exposure to Lord of the Rings was being lovingly forced the first time and then willingly the second time, sitting down and watching the entire trilogy extended editions.
Thank you for the lovingly inclusion there, because that word is up for debate.
The first one, I'm going to be honest, was a little begrudgingly, but the second one I definitely really enjoyed. I think this set looks like a ton of fun. I want to go over kind of the things that, as someone who isn't a LOTR stan, like the things that stand out to me, and then Josh, you can give me your opinion on these as well, and then we'll get our pros response to them as well. Full art map basic lands are like a win to me. They look so good. I have no opinion on what should be which types, whether the Shire should be this or that. I'm not going to get into that because, again, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day to me. But I think full art basic map lands are an absolute win. The One Ring is a card that I'm still not completely sold on yet, although I think it's a good card and it helps out a lot of strategies.
It has capacity to be great. I don't think it's an auto-include in everything.
I don't think it's a staple, but I think it's a card that will surprise a lot of people with how good it does. This is one of those cards that I'd like to kind of plant a flag in and come back on and see like how this card performs in like 6 months, because I think this is going to take a lot of people by storm.
I see that doing very well in colors and color combos that traditionally have a hard time withdrawing. So pretty much anything like mono white, red white.
This is an artifact deck staple now. 100%.
Yeah, it fits into any artifact theme, and anything that struggles with a lot of card draw. I see that being a great include.
The one thing I'm really happy they did with this card is they worded it the turn this card is cast, you get protection from everything. If that said the turn it entered the battlefield, you would have decks that could loop that infinitely and never 100%. Be affected. So I'm glad they at least had the foresight of that. The other thing that I'm really excited about, and of course you guys knew as soon as you saw the card why I was excited, and that's that we are getting Realms and Relics box toppers. These are 30 artifacts and lands, borderless, with Lord of the Rings arts that are going to be box toppers. In every individual sealed box that you buy of any product, there's going to be one, and then they are also available to be pulled in the collector boosters as well. And of course, you knew I was interested as soon as we saw the party tree. The Great Henge finally gets a reprint. One of the single best green commander cards, in my opinion, finally gets a reprint in all of that glory. We also saw Ensnaring Bridge. We also saw one more card as well. The big thing of note is the box toppers are not changing any legality of the card originally. So because this is being printed for Modern, any of these cards in this box topper set that are not legal in Modern are still not legal in Modern.
Sag.
but I know that these are. My hope is that we're going to target some fun commander cards. We're going to get some great reprints with some great art, and they'll probably do their best to kind of keep them fairly thematic, like the party trees, fairly thematic for what it is. Same thing with the ensnaring bridge.
It's a great match with the Great Henge, and yeah, the bridge being the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. That's a great pairing.
So my hope is we'll see more. They've said that all 30 of them are mythics. I mean, I know that doesn't exactly mean a lot when it's in a set like this, but hopefully that means that that's the power of those cards that are going to be reprinted. Of course, Great Henge was originally printed as a mythic in Eldraine, so my hope is that we see some cool cards of that. But guys, that's not it for Lord of the Rings, because we got 4 pre-con commander decks like we talked about. All of them will have, I believe it's at least 20 new cards, if not more, for each of them, including the commanders. Yeah. And like I said, every card in these decks will have Lord of the Rings art, just like those 40k decks where they had, reprints that just had 40k art. I'm going to read through the 4 options here. I already know you're one of yours choice for these decks, but I just wanted to talk about what decks of these 4 kind of intrigues us the most. We have Riders of Rohan, which is a white, blue, red deck. We have Food and Fellowship, white, black, green, which is already confirmed to have our 2 favorite characters as the commanders. We have Elven Council, blue, green, and the Hosts of Mordor with Sauron himself on it as blue, black, red. Andrew, we'll start with you because I know you could probably do an entire podcast just theory crafting on this deck alone. Which deck are you most excited for?
Wait, is that not what this episode is?
No, actually.
Are we not just theory crafting for exclusively Lord of the Rings?
No. We can probably do one if we really wanted to.
Okay, yeah. Honestly, I'm probably just gonna give my 2 cents on each of them. I know that I know at least you, Millsy, there's at least one that you've commented on as being pretty interesting. So for the Jeskai Riders of Rohan, I don't disagree with the color combination there, but the inclusion of blue as opposed to black or maybe even green.
Yeah, I would kind of argue black or green makes more sense.
The white red definitely makes sense for the people of Rohan being a structured society, but also very passionate and swept up in battle fury very easily. So I would think that black, would be.
I think the only reason I can guess why, looking at it now, is just because every other deck that's coming out has black or green in it. So maybe they wanted to kind of
get some
spread the decks out.
So yeah, I'm super excited for the Riders of Rohan. Food and Fellowship. I mean, it's not a particularly great, amazing quality deck, but I do have a green-black food deck with a Guillaume Master Chef as piloting that. I have a lot of fun with food, so getting some more of that, adding the inclusion of white.
I just want to interject really quickly. I love that food is a part of this deck. I love that they didn't waste that, and they already made it clear, right? Samwise, we saw his card already from the deck, and it cares a little bit about food. We saw the Shire already. Now, I don't think the Shire will be in the deck, unfortunately, and
probably not.
We'll gripe later about why they don't include set cards in the decks. But anyway, the Shire, of course, cares about food. So I'm really excited that food is seeing another really big inclusion in the deck.
I'm really expecting them to make sorcery cards called Second Breakfast and Elevensies, specifically for the purpose of creating food. Oh, absolutely. If they don't do that, I'll be very disappointed.
We will write a strongly worded letter to Wizards about it.
Well, or have it be one of those box toppers of like Witch's Oven is changed to afternoon tea.
Oh, yeah, yes.
So, yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Elven Council, I think Simic Elves makes a lot of sense here in terms of Lord of the Rings, with the elves being very tied to nature and the world around them, that strong connection to green, but the wisdom and the knowledge that they have was the connection to blue. I see that doing potentially a lot of great things and very on point lore-wise, and the same can be said of the Grixis, Sauron, Hosts of Mordor, because you have Sauron as this mythological creature, basically a demon of sorts. So, the black and red selfishness and, want of things for himself, but also he is still a godlike creature, and as such is very wise and knowledgeable. So you add that blue in
I
there.
don't know, if you asked me to pick colors for Sauron, it would be Grixis. Like he's
Absolutely.
dead into what Grixis is. Like,
Yes.
We saw the starter deck, right? We've seen the starter kit, which had the
other Sauron.
the other Sauron, and then it had why am I blanking on his name?
It wasn't Frodo.
Arwen and
Oh yeah, that's right. Aragorn and Arwen.
and Aragorn. So those were the two commanders we've seen already for the starter kits. And I looked at it and I was like, well, I'll hold my opinion on that Sauron card, but I was like, I don't know that I would peg Sauron as being Rakdos. I really think he's probably Grixis at the end of the day. But
yeah.
So for me, I think the deck that I'm the most intrigued in is Elven Council. Like, I think elves in Magic have traditionally been mono green, and then when they've really explored into second colors, it's really been black. It's really been Golgari, and so I'm excited for one, the prospect of having a 2-color elves deck that's not green black, and two, that this could potentially create a space for a Sultai elves deck if that's what somebody wanted to do as well. I have a friend who. My buddy Steven, who has an Abzin elves deck, and of course there's lots of support there for that. But I just think the idea of blue-green elves, just that's the one that caught my eye. I mean, I think anyone who knows anything about Lord of the Rings, you look at the deck called Food and Fellowship, and you see their picture on the deck, and you go, "That's Lord of the Rings right there." Like that's what you'd expect from it. But I'm excited about the idea of Simic elves, and it's something that I hope gets done right, and I'm excited to see what gets done from it. I mean, I am partially interested in the idea of a Sauron-led Grixis deck, but I already have way too many honeypots I'm already trying to stick my hand in as far as Grixis goes, so we need to just leave that one where it's...
I also kind of wish that the commander decks had been split, like, half and half, like, good guys, the free peoples, and half, the forces of evil. So we got Mordor. I would have loved to have seen an Isengard and Saruman deck. I can see that being Orzhov.
Well, the good part is just because they don't have a deck doesn't mean they're not going to be in the set. Like,
for sure.
And I feel this way about a lot of things. Like, this is I know that we aren't going to talk about this a lot, but we are also seeing a set of decks later this year for Doctor Who, and I feel the exact same way about that. I'm intrigued to see what they choose as far as battle lines on who to include there. Does anybody have any lasting comments for Lord of the Rings before we move on?
Well, I think so. The deck that I am really looking forward to is this Host of Mordor. I've already got my Be'lakor deck, my Grixis Demons, which I absolutely love.
That deck is a ton of fun to play.
Even though it's sometimes it sucks to play with. And other times it sucks to play against. It's not very consistent. I'm still working on it. I really think that being able to pilot Sauron is going to be amazing. I'm going to love it, in my opinion. Super looking forward to it. And the biggest thing that I was excited about when I first heard that Lord of the Rings was being hinted at, that they were potentially going to make a set, was, oh my gosh, there's going to be Balrogs. I absolutely love them.
We've already seen some art. And
we've seen the art.
We're going to see some more.
Yeah. And then the second thing that I'm super excited about is the throwaway cards they always put at the back of every pack that's like tells you how to play a different mini game or whatever like that, or they give you the cards that you can write on as like a sort of proxy. Have you seen that when you put a bunch of those together, it creates a full picture?
Yep, it's pretty cool.
I want all of those so that I can build that full picture. I am so stoked. I have never cared about those throwaway cards until today.
Yeah, it's like their version of like the art cards and doing stuff. Because I think they even showed...
Oh, but there will be art cards in the set.
Oh, yeah, but it's like an extra set of art cards.
Yeah.
I also know like they showed some of the alternate art for... Frodo, Sam, and Gollum, like all of those, if you take
the borderless ones together.
The borderless ones, if you arrange them, 2x2 in a particular way, you get like one of the final scenes of them about to cast the ring,
flicking the ring off. And
I think we all can agree, Wizards, although they made some choices that maybe don't line up with the movies completely, I mean, they're knocking it out of the park, and they're going to do a lot to make this set really cool.
Yeah, and in fact, I did some research on this. They don't actually have the rights to get their visuals from the movie. It's exclusively from the written material.
Gotcha. So that makes more sense.
So anything that they
also did express when they originally released it that they were doing their own interpretation of some things as well. So I think maybe some people's response was a little unfair when it comes to certain things, but I think massive fans like you, Andrew, and other people had their rights to feel certain ways about certain things, but I hope that at the end of the day, people realize that this set's going to do a lot of good, even if there might be small things that we think should have been changed.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people who are true fans and have been following this franchise of Lord of the Rings for a long time are going to be able to look over those slight differences and variations between what you're seeing printed versus what is canonically accurate
written on the
Lord of
pages.
Rings. Yeah. So you might notice differences in the way that some characters or cards look or play or whatever like that, but you're still going to be able to appreciate the way that the whole set is printed.
The way that the effects tie into the lore. But I mean, on it, like the art looks looks very much like something we would see out of a illustration book, or some of the official illustrations we've gotten from people like Alan Lee, who worked so closely with the movie makers and the Tolkien estate to make artwork. The art has been blowing it out of the
And let's
park.
be honest, Magic has a lot of strengths, and one of them is absolutely insane art. Art on all of these sets is great, and it's one of the reasons why I'm like, I don't care if I never use any of these cards, because I love looking at the art on them.
Just please give me one copy of each, please.
So we've got one last big set to talk about in this episode, and that's Commander Masters, a Commander Focus Master set coming out on August 4th. We do have a couple standard sets after that, but we really haven't seen anything from them yet, so I don't really want to talk about them just yet. We can always come back to them. But Commander Masters is a Commander Focus Master set for anyone who's not been around for a Master set yet. Master sets are complete reprint sets where Wizards tries to create a draft format with, specific cards that are reprints for certain formats. Of course, this one is completely focused around Commander. I don't believe it's meant to be drafted. If I recall correctly, it's not like Commander Legends where it was completely intended to be drafted. But, I mean, of the cards we've seen so far, I think this set has some good potential. The reprints that this got started off with was Jeweled Lotus, the probably most expensive card from Commander Legends 1, in not only the regular frame, the foil etched frame, which is one of my favorite new frames. We'll talk about that in a second. And then a beautiful frame-breaking borderless card. We had the Ur-Dragon, which I misspelled as the Zur-Dragon on my notes.
Well, that's we don't want to think about Zur turning into a dragon.
The Ur-Dragon.
I would not.
Of course, one of the single most popular commanders of all time. The Ur-Dragon getting not only a reprint, but a beautiful borderless art. And then Capture of Jingzhou, which is a extra turn spell that was originally released in Portal 3 Kingdoms. A set that did not get a ton of printing here in the U.S. Is getting reprinted in this set to give people a perspective. We've gotten 2 cards in the last couple of years reprinted from Portal 3 Kingdoms. 3 Visits, which got reprinted originally in Commander Legends 1 and has been reprinted a couple times since in Commander decks. An Imperial Seal, which I believe was either in that or was also in that, but also in older sets, got reprinted in Double Masters. So, first of all, have you been around for any Master sets being released? Do you guys remember? I know both of you have been around for Modern Horizons, but other than Double Masters 2022, have you guys been out for any other Master sets? Have you been playing while they've come out?
I got in right after. The Master sets. No, I haven't. I got mixed up with the Commander Legends. Double Masters 2022 is the only one that I've gotten to see the release of.
Yeah, same here. I just, like I said, only a year. Double Masters was super cool to see, and see a bunch of these cards that I had kind of heard of, but then now get to see the actual effect and impact of that card. So I'm super stoked for this one, because I'm sure that there's a lot of cards that are going to get reprinted in there that are staples that I feel like I probably wouldn't have ever been able to get my hands on, that are just going to be amazing for me to have like a physical copy of.
The big double-edged sword of Master sets, they do a very good job at reprinting some cards, but the problem that most, at least long-term, in franchise Magic players have with Master sets are there really only tends to be 15 to 20 of these cards that get mega important reprints, and then you get a lot of the things that you normally see, like I expect we'll see another Arcane Signet print, another Sol Ring print. We'll see a lot of things like that, but we probably won't necessarily... I don't expect this to be packed full of, like, staples, but I hope it is. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that I'm completely wrong on this and that they just give us everything we could ever want in a Master set. I expect they might because, right, Commander is probably the most popular format at the moment when it comes to Magic the Gathering, but I don't want to set my sights... I don't want to set my hopes too high and see the same thing that's happened with every other Master set that's happened. If you look at Double Masters and Double Masters 2022, yes, some of those top-end cards that got printed were crazy, right? But the problem is, if you go open a draft booster of either of those, you may just get duds out of it completely.
Yeah. I'm super excited to see what does get reprints and what is like super high quality, but I think it's like you were saying, it's not going to be just full of staples. It's not going to be, 250 reprints of or 250 cards that everybody wants and wants to get a hold of only printed. You're going to have cards in there that you're like, oh, okay, great. Well, another Sol Ring. Super excited for that.
And don't get me wrong, if we get a random Boros Charm reprint in Commander Masters, I'm not going to be mad. Sure, there are uncommon and bulk rare cards that need a reprint. Don't get me wrong. I will happily take any of those. I would hope that for a set like Commander Masters, Wizards really reprints those cards that we really want. I'm not talking
like
about
Cabal Coffers.
Well, yeah,
I want one of those.
We got it in Modern Horizons too, but I mean, like, I don't mean that. Oh, Mana Crypt in every pack. That's not what I'm saying. You heard it here first. I'm just kidding. But but you see what I'm saying? Like, I really hope that there's a good litany of reprints that are needed, and not just 15 decent cards and then just all bulk rares.
Yeah, I kind of, to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I kind of shudder at the thought of them releasing a set, of Wizards releasing a set that is exclusively cards that, are things that everybody will be clamoring to get. Not to go as far as what you said, here's everybody gets Mana Crypt. But, I think if there's a consistent amount of cards in the sets that in the packs that everybody does want, then that's going to create scarcity and drive the price up, and I don't think that's something anybody really wants. So I hope we get a mixture of both. Not that I'm saying I want garbage cards, but having some of those lesser powered, less desirable, or more niche, maybe I should say, more specific strategies involved with the Masters release. I think that would be ideal.
So like Cabal Coffers?
Exactly like Cabal Coffers. Exactly picking up what I'm throwing
Please, let me get a Cabal Coffers.
The last little point I want to make before we talk about the Commander decks, because that's a whole other conversation in itself for Commander Legends or Commander Masters, is it's very interesting that we saw Multiverse Legends, right, from Arts of the Machines, and we're getting told that this is this bonus sheet of popular commanders being reprinted in their original frames, and then we saw Commander Masters. I'm very intrigued to see what did they pick for Multiverse Legends that isn't going to be in Commander Masters, because it wouldn't make very much sense for them to put the Dragon on that Multiverse Legends and then give us a borderless version in Commander Legends. So I'm very intrigued how they choose to do that. But friends, I think we need to finish with the Commander decks, because we have never seen Commander decks for a Master set before, but it makes sense. Of course, we're doing this for Commander. It's only right. But the big caveat we need to put here is that the only new cards in Commander Masters are the cards that are specifically in these decks. The decks each have 10 new cards, including the commanders, and they are the only new cards in this whole set. Everything else will be a reprint. I'm going to go over these 4 decks, and I have a gut feeling that at least one of us is going to be excited about one of them. But as a caveat, remember, new commanders. Eldrazi Unbound, the first colorless precon. Enduring Enchantments, white, black, green. Planeswalker Party, white, blue, red. And Sliver Swarm, white, blue, black, red, green. Another 5-color precon for slivers. The big thing here, before we talk about what excites us the most, obviously, the Eldrazi and the slivers are 2 tribes that have never received a precon before. And not only that, they are kind of some of the most enigmatic tribes we have in Magic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, I would probably venture to guess that all 4 of us at least raised an eyebrow at every single one of these decks.
Oh, yeah.
But are there any of these 4 decks for you guys that you're like, man, I kind of might pick that up and mess around with it? I kind of
Eldrazi,
figured that
100%.
Yeah, that checks out for Josh doing the Eldrazi.
But here's the further I want to go. So you're saying Eldrazi's the deck you want.
100%.
What do you think that commander is going to do? What's your guess for what that commander's going to do?
The crazy thing is when you look back, the first, for everyone here, the first deck that I ever brewed 100% on my own was an Ulamog Eldrazi deck, completely colorless. Super interesting, probably not what most people would pick as their first first deck
commander. No.
Yeah, like most people will like, oh, I'll pick like 1 or 2 colors to pick. I went colorless, which was absolutely wild. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just slapped some stuff together. And the only reason it really worked is because you guys were like, oh, Josh doesn't know what he's doing yet. And then by the time you looked back over at me, I'd have like 3 12/12s on the board.
I think the Eldrazi decks are
Annihilator 5.
Eldrazi decks are good at one thing, which is there's so many utility artifacts that create colorless mana at crazy rates. And then you add in Eye of Ugin and things like that.
Yeah,
yeah. So, I'll give you my guess.
I think so.
If you
but
want.
when you look at the Kozilek, Ulamog, and Emrakul shuffle titans, that's what everybody automatically associates them with, because if they die, you can shuffle them back into the deck, right?
Well, not all the old ones, yes, but the new ones don't.
The new ones, no. But I'm saying that's what everyone thinks of, right? They typically will think of either that or the completely broken Emrakul.
That's not completely broken. I mean, it's definitely not balanced.
Mildly broken.
Yeah. But I am really hoping. So I have no idea. As much as I wanted it to be like a new Shuffle Titan that we hadn't heard of before, I'm really hoping that it's something like a blanket cost decrease for some of these massive creatures that you have. Or on the opposite side, Andrew was saying Annihilator. I love the thought of Annihilator.
I don't know, bring back Annihilator.
And if this creature can give other creatures Annihilator,
even just like Annihilator
buff,
1.
yeah, or buff their Annihilator, that would be amazing.
So I have 2 kind of off the wall guesses for this.
Okay, let's hear it.
The first is this is a Eldrazi colorless planeswalker as the commander.
Ooh.
I have no basis for that. I just think it's fun to throw something out there. The second is this is going to be the commander version of Conduit of Ruin. This is a creature that's going to reduce your Eldrazi's casting cost by 1 colorless or something like that. And then it's going to say every time you cast an Eldrazi spell, draw a card or something stupid. It's going to pretty much just be a value engine out of the command zone.
Eldrazi creatures you cast have Cascade.
Yes. Andrew, you got to have one of these 4 that you're at least halfway interested in.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the Planeswalker party seems pretty fun.
Dang it, you stole mine.
Stop stealing my answers.
With getting into Brawl on Arena, I've liked the ability to pick any Planeswalker to be the commander of a Brawl deck on Arena, and I've really enjoyed getting to brew around that. My favorite being a Johnny Sleeper Agent is the one that I'm currently in love with. So having a Planeswalker commander is a new thing that I'm getting into that I'm starting to appreciate. I like the colors. I have some familiarity with the colors, and so I think
they're
I
literally
can
the
think some
perfect
ways.
colors. I think this is literally the perfect 3 colors for Planeswalkers. I have been...
Garrick is not invited.
I have been say new Garrick.
I have been flirting with the idea of a Super Friends deck for a really long time, and you guys have seen me test a couple iterations of it. And there's some of them that have accomplished kind of what I wanted, but I've had to add some sort of sub-strategy in with them because they haven't really completely done what I want. But the idea of a Planeswalker-themed deck is exactly what I want. And I'll tell you what I've thought about this. This is my dream commander for a Planeswalker deck. 4/5 mana, I don't care what its power toughness is. It could be a 1/1 for all I care. It comes down to 2 abilities. Ready? Top line, you may activate the loyalty abilities of your Planeswalkers twice an additional time each turn. Yeah, and then we're not done. And then tap that creature, put a Planeswalker card from your hand onto the battlefield.
Oh. Ooh.
Would you
That's
pay
spicy.
into that ability?
100% I would.
Okay, I was gonna say if it's just a free tap, put some
But
stuff.
here's the
I
thing.
was like,
I could see
Stop.
either of those two abilities, even on their own, being a part of this commander. Because, like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
you got to remember, the hardest part about Planeswalkers decks in general is getting a critical mass of them down and being able to protect them. You're in the perfect color in white. You can bounce all of them. You can phase them out in blue. There's plenty of options we have now for protecting them. But you look at it. You have things like Teferi, which can use its abilities on your opponent's turn. I could see this commander saying Planeswalkers you control can use their abilities, on everyone's turn instead of just yours. It would be a little broken, but it could be a thing.
Put like the Oath of Teferi effect on a creature.
Or what if it taps and says you may use the loyalty abilities of one of your planeswalkers this turn, and it could be on anyone's turn. Like there's so many abilities you could pick here that could make this commander so much fun. And again, going back to All Obi-Wan, right? We talked about All Obi-Wan. All Obi-Wan is a card that makes these Planeswalkers decks even better. Now, the Jeskai commander I had been kind of tinkering with, and I haven't got to test it yet, but once I saw this deck, I just stopped because I at least until I see this commander, I'm going to stop, was Narset from Khans of Tarkir.
Yeah.
And the reason is because it literally just plays Planeswalkers for free, which is
literally for free,
which is just going to keep you going. And to me, like, that was my choice. So if this deck literally flops and the commander's not good enough, that might be what I might revert back to. Just because I love that Narset used to be like one of the most broken commanders in the world. Oh, yeah. And nowadays, if you walked into a store with a Narset deck, no one would probably care as much as they used to. You have commanders like Chatterfang and all of these complete combo engines that are like these commanders that people are afraid of now. And Narset's like probably not even something that most new players would blink an eye at because they've never seen it before.
Oh, I mean, if someone brought Narset to the table against me, I'd probably be like, all right, let's talk about this.
Yeah, Narset is absolutely gross. But to me, the problem with those Planeswalkers decks is you need something to fuel the fire, right? I brought my Kethis Super Friends list, which was pretty much an Aristocrats deck, but with Planeswalkers. And in all reality, it needed the Aristocrats engine to kind of make it fly, right? I'm intrigued to see what this is. The Abzan Enchantress deck, I think, Josh, is one of the ones that you had looked at and you were kind of interested in. I heard a podcast say this week that they were intrigued to see what it does differently than Sithis, or what it does differently than any of these other Enchantress commanders we've seen. And my hope is it does something different that makes people want to play it over the other Enchantress commanders that we have. And if it does, I'm all for it. Give us an Abzan commander that does something fun. I don't know, it might be kind of crazy if it lets you play your enchantments out of your graveyard. Or like, I could think of so many things you could do in an Abzan color combination with enchantments that could be a ton of fun. So I'm intrigued to see what it looks like. The cool part about these decks is, like I said, 10 new cards in each deck. I mean, none of us are like high on Slivers, but that is going to be kind of interesting because Slivers already kind of have two perfect commanders. I'm intrigued to see what they choose to do with a third one.
Yeah, that was my thought as well, seeing that. I'm like, I feel like Slivers is in some way the kind of sort of one of the many boogeymen of Commander, where it's just like you see someone, pull up to the table with Slivers deck. They're like, oh yeah, this is 5-color Slivers. You're not in for a good time.
Have you guys seen that in the Secret Lairs over the last year, they've been reprinting all the Slivers in extended art? Have you guys seen this?
Yes.
I think it's one of the coolest things ever. I will never play a Slivers deck. It's just not a deck that interests me. If I had to pick a 5-color deck right now, it will always be Shrines at the moment. But I mean, like, there's plenty of other great 5-color choices out there. But I'm just intrigued.
Eldrazi?
Yeah, I'm just intrigued to see what that Sliver Swarm deck is. Well, guys, like I said, there's a couple more standard sets that are coming out after that. But again, we don't know enough about them right now to really talk about them. And I'd rather save that to when we get to know a little bit more about them. Do you guys have anything to add before we wrap up this episode of the Commander Brew podcast?
I would like to spend another hour talking about the history of the Lord of the Rings and the creation of Middle Earth.
So what you're going to do is you're going to go down into the description. There's going to be a link to our Patreon. You're going to go ahead and sign up for the Patreon to get Andrew's 3-hour lore review of Lord of the Rings.
That's the bonus extra behind-the-scenes content.
Just tell me there's a Morgoth in there somewhere, because I really want him.
Because listen, guys, if there's anything we learned, it's just that you need to hide really weird content behind the Patreon paywall. That's the one thing I've learned in my time now. But thank you guys so much for listening. This is a project that we are all very excited about, and we're excited to keep bringing you the good news when it comes to Commander Brew Crew. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you guys next time.
Peace.